Welcome to the Gun Show. So I'm kind of frustrated because I had this idea and this thought of going through every restaurant, every business place, and telling you if it was a good place to eat at based on your ability to wash your hands. If you've been inside of any place, you know that some places don't care if you wash your hands or not based on the way that their sinks are built, based on the way like they don't have like hand napkins, paper towels, they don't have soap in their bathrooms, and you can understand and know that like they don't want you to wash your hands. Walmart is one of the biggest places where you go in there and you try to wash your hands. That sink is super shallow. The dispenser thing don't work half the time. The water won't come out half the time. I know that they don't particularly care if you wash your hands or not. Even though they have those things posted about their employees washing their hands before they return back to work, they don't care about it. But if I would have started that video and this thing going through like washing your hands in all these different restaurants, I would be famous right now because everybody's watching videos on how to wash your hands right now. And I'm frustrated about this because this whole pandemic that's taking place is all because people don't know how to wash their hands. And I was thinking to myself, that's really nasty that people don't know how to wash their hands and that they don't wash their hands because you're touching other people's snot and other people's coughs and spit and germs and dirt, and you touching your face and your mouth and your hair and you're eating and stuff. Like even the salt shakers on the table and the sauce dispensers and stuff, like they have germs and people licking on their fingers and stuff and putting their hands on it. Like washing your hands is a big deal, a very, very big deal. And so I know that this was extremely important. And this entire thing that's going on right now is because people don't know how to wash their hands. And then I started thinking about all the stuff that was on people's hands, and this is where this video takes place. So if you are with a child, send them away because this is for adults. I know that whenever you are isolated because of this isolation that's taking place, because we're all by ourselves, because you're in your house, some of the things that you struggle with and you deal with are they are intensified and they grow, and you deal with them more so because you're in isolation and because you're by yourself. So we are going to talk about pornography. Proverbs 18 verses 1 through 4 says, whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. When wickedness comes, contempt comes also, and with dishonor comes disgrace. The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook. So we have been in isolation. We've been by ourselves, and I had this crazy idea. The first thing, a man who isolates himself seeks his own desire. I had this crazy idea. We're going to be locked in the house for a couple of weeks. I should shave my eyebrows off. I should just cut them all the way off. No one's going to see me. No one's going to know. I completely thought about doing it. I was like, you can definitely do that. You remember like you used to put lines in your eyebrows and stuff to be cool? Have you ever went too far in or like went too close together and you just like shaved off this whole part and you're just like, I'm one of those people who's like, yeah, whatever, shave them all the way off. I've done this before when I was a teenager. Another story for another time. But when you're stuck by yourself and you're in isolation, the only person that you have to bounce those ideas and those thoughts and those concepts and those feelings that you have and you're dealing with is yourself. And so you don't have anyone to give you advice, anyone to speak to you about these things. And I know that if you struggle with pornography and you're in isolation, this is a very difficult time for you because you're by yourself. And that's your outlet. So it put this little circle thing on there. It says the first thing, and this is from Covenant Eyes, and I shared a link to that earlier. The video was hilarious. They have these 4 superheroes. One's like Catman or something. Another one's in a ball. But it says porn, then shame, then isolation is then triggered. So first you watch porn, then you feel shame, and because you feel shame, you isolate yourself, and then you're triggered by that feeling of isolation or by whatever you are going through, the mess and the stress of life, and then you go back to watching pornography. And so this cycle just continues. But with this app that they have, you are able to share your phone and your the things that you watch, and people are able to track it, or a person's able to track it, and they can hold you accountable and make sure that you're not watching those things or doing those things. And even if you do fail, there's no shame because they love you and they care about you and you're accountable to them, but they speak to you and they cover you and they just just kind of deal with you. So one, even though you're in isolation, even though you're by yourself, you're supposed to be away from other people, make sure that you're communicating via Facebook or other social media outlets. Also your phone still calls people. You can call people, you can text them, you can communicate with them. They go down in the DMs. You can talk to people and communicate with them, and you don't have to be isolated. It's not good for you to do this. So then last week, I think we went to Stillwater to check on someone, and we were talking, and this question came up: where did unspoken prayer requests come from? I have never seen that in the Bible anywhere where it says unspoken prayer requests, where you can go and pray about something and not say what it is. On the other hand, in James 5, verses 13 through 16, it says, if anyone among you is suffering, let him pray. If anyone is cheerful, let him sing praise. If anyone among you is sick, let him call for the elders of the church and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith, the fervent, effectual prayer of a righteous man availeth much. And the prayer of faith will save the one who is sick. The Lord will raise him up, and if he has committed sin, he will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. So it's not good for you to be by yourself, and it's also not good for you to carry this load by yourself. You weren't made to. And I know that we all have stuff that we're dealing with. And you're saying, Carvel, you struggle with pornography. You got your own problems. If you're holy to me, then tell Jesus on me and see what he does to you. We're all covered in the blood. But if that's something that you struggle with or something that you deal with, download the app, get on the app. There's other things. I'm looking at some other stuff because this one's like $15 a month. But you can cover like 12 devices with it, and you can have someone hold you accountable. But if that's something that you're struggling with, I know that it's very, 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 that, like, especially right now, I know a lot of people think that it's only men, but women struggle with it also. Women, get a woman to hold you accountable. Don't find another guy. And it may not be, and it's not the best idea to use your spouse either. I know that your spouse, you're one-on-one, whatever. But if you're doing that or you're struggling with that, it's causing issue in your relationship, in your marriage. Also, it's already putting stress on there. So then, that's going to add extra stress if they have to hold you accountable and say you're not trying. You can with your guys, you can have a little bit more. You don't have to worry about them. Like, I mean, obviously you don't want to let them down, but at the same time, like, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm sick of you, I'm breaking up with you, and it's over. It's like that. I guess they can stop being your friend, but your spouse is going to be a little bit more frustrated because they've been carrying this for however long you've been dealing with it. So porn, then shame, then isolation, and then trigger. So the best way to go through this is to remove the isolation, remove the shame that's associated with, because Jesus knows everything that you're carrying. And then some people think, well, if you're saved and if you're a Christian, you shouldn't be dealing with this. You shouldn't be struggling with this. You shouldn't be addicted to this if you're saved and blood washed and sanctified and bought and all that other stuff. And I just kept thinking about Peter, how he had this thorn in his flesh and he kept praying and God didn't remove it, but he kept drawing it back to him. And I doubt that he was struggling with pornography, but he was struggling with something and God didn't remove it. So whatever it is that you're struggling with, whatever it is that you're dealing with, take it to God, but also bring to other people who can hold you accountable. And then Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12, it says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for the labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion, but woe to the one who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. And I know we didn't choose isolation. It's just kind of been put on us because of the virus and everything that's going on. Again, if two lie together, they will keep warm, but how can one be warm alone? Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him, and a threefold cord is not easily broken. So I don't care what you're dealing with. I don't care what your addiction is, what your struggle is. We all have stuff that we're carrying. We all have stuff that we're battling and warring and waging against. If you say that you don't, then you're a liar, and you make Jesus Christ's word not to be true. But if you have that going on, you're struggling with that, get with someone, talk with somebody, download that app. I'll look for other ways that you can speak to or download other things that are not as expensive, where you can deal with this issue or that issue, if that's something that you're dealing with. If you're not dealing with that, I'm sure you know someone who is feeling this way. But yeah, you're not struggling by yourself. It's not something that you're dealing with by yourself. If you struggle with pornography or addiction to pornography, God is dealing with you regarding that, but also get the help that you need and don't carry it by yourself. I love you. Bless you. Have a great night. Au revoir. Au revoir.